package, an expansion of unemployment benefits, and they adopted an expansion in food stamp benefits last year and will do something else this year. That gives you a far higher rate of return to grow the economy than tax cuts for upper income people who will simply save the money now. But here's what I'm talking about. This is a how question. Last year, only 65% of the people in America who were eligible for food stamps used them. Partly because there were a lot of first-generation immigrants who didn't understand how the program worked. Partly because, at least where I come from, there are a lot of people like those I grew up with who are just too proud to take it because they still think it's welfare. So they think if you got a job, even if you're eligible, you're not supposed to. Partly because a lot of seniors get very modest benefits under food stamps, and the system's not user-friendly for them, so they're supposed to traipse 10, 15 miles away from where they live to get 10 bucks a week in benefits, and a lot of them are not sure it's worth it. Here's the economic point I want to make, and the social justice point. Someone in every single state of the United States should be focused on the how. Why don't we get to 90% utilization? Don't just ask the Congress to give us more money. The authorization is there. They'll cover it. How can we go around with hungry people in America knowing only 2/3 of the eligible people on food stamps have claimed the benefits? That's a how question. That's what people hire Democrats to do. That's the sort of thing that we ought to be doing. How are we going to get more jobs in the face of this recession? By not giving up on America's energy independence. And let me say, there's a lot of evidence now, people can't afford to buy a lot of new cars, so the hybrid electric car sales are off. Oil's $40 a barrel, not 140, so people think maybe we don't need to go to clean energy. Let me remind you of something. While our major oil sellers are our neighbors, Canada and Mexico, we get about half our oil from the Middle East and Venezuela and Africa. In this decade, the countries that have been hurt the least by the current conditions and the countries that were in the best shape before the financial collapse, you look all over the world, are the relatively small number of countries that decided they would meet their Kyoto climate change targets, they would become more energy independent, they would use what was there before them and seize control of their own destiny, and as a result, they didn't pour all their money into housing, they put their money into the production of new energy products and new energy services. And that is going to come out of the President's stimulus package. I had a nice talk right before I came out with the governor and your senators about some of the things my foundation does around the world, but let me tell you, we ought to close every landfill in America. We don't need any of these unsightly landfills. We should recycle the metal and use every bit of the organic material to make fertilizer, our biofuels, our compressed for biomass electricity generation. And we would solve a local public health problem, get land back on the purposes, create jobs, and it can be made economic. I just say that as an example. We Democrats have been given an incredible opportunity. For people like me that grew up in the segregated South, that longed for the civil rights movement, raised by a working mother who supported the women's movement, then saw the country drift apart in the 1960s and stay split, we realized that the hard way in 1994 when we lost the Congress, partly because the NRA convinced people I was going to take their guns away when they saw a weapons ban. To see this day come, when we have got much more of a live and let live attitude, much more of an understanding that we are tied together. To see Barack Obama be president, to me, not just the first African American president, but a president who represents our future because he lived in Indonesia, his father was African, his mother was Kansan. That's really where America's going. It's never going to be biracial or just two religions again. This is the kaleidoscope. And so we know, even which means, I will say again, just three simple things. We have to share the responsibilities, we have to share the opportunities, and we have to say our differences are really interesting. Don't you think Virginia is a lot more interesting place than it was 30 years ago? Come on, look at this crowd. We had this dinner 30 years ago. Most people look like me, old gray-haired white guy. He's so boring. Right? The only thing that will make it work is that we think our differences are interesting, but our common humanity matters more. We have won the great culture war that has divided America for 40 years. But before we celebrate too much, we have to realize that people hired us to do. We are now in an era when how is even more important than how much. The how. We have all worked so hard for so many years to elect good people. And we just assumed that they would do a good job because we knew what they had to do. Now we're in an era of unprecedented economic complexity and difficulty. When the old problems haven't gone away, there's still too much income inequality, middle class wages are still stagnant. After we reduced poverty 100 times as much as the two Republicans did before I was president, it's running rampant again now, even among working people. The healthcare crisis has not gone away. It's become more urgent to solve it, not less. All those things are there in the midst of this incredible financial maelstrom. We have a president who so far has made really good appointments. I especially like that Secretary of State appointment. But I know how hard it is. And we all got to ride with it. And we all have to be a part of it. And we have to realize that an enormous amount of the real impact of this economic stimulus program will be determined state by state, commonwealth by commonwealth, community by community, based on the how. So I will say again, you got to win this election. You should urge this primary to be vigorous. But you should remember how long we have worked for this moment. Stay together, work together, prove to the American people they made the right decision, prove that we are not only the party of national unity, we are the how party of national progress. Thank you, and God bless.